What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Divij Den podcast, episode 151. Super excited for this one because I just like interviewing people that I actually know, and it makes the conversation a lot easier. I'm not like anxious or stressed out. It's just like it's an enjoyable conversation. And the amazing person sitting next to me is actually I wanted to say wife, but we're not quite there yet. She's the girlfriend of the producer and the co-host of the podcast, Grant. So I want to welcome Asia Corinne.
Close.
I'm so sorry. I should have researched this before. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, I'm so excited to do a podcast with you. You were on our podcast. Now I'm on your podcast. So
yeah.
That's cool.
I'm pumped. You have a podcast called Hanging Out Forever where you guys talk about like dating and relationships, and it's very interesting. I feel like you get I've seen some of your clips and a lot of like the street videos I feel like go really viral.
Yeah.
And I just think you guys have like a great duo togetherness, which is beautiful. Yeah.
Tips hat. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we actually stopped doing street segments a while ago. It was great. It was awesome while it lasted, but we had to stop doing it because it was like bringing in a kind of crowd that we didn't really want to stick around, and they weren't there for relationship tips or information on how to navigate your relationship. They were just there for drama and tea, which I also understand, but we kind of wanted to move more towards being able to curate our community in a way that feels more aligned with us as like people and a brand. So
were you getting a lot of like hate comments?
Yes and no. I think that on the street segments, it felt as if we were baiting innocent people and exploiting them for views. Yeah. And at first it was like, if somebody has a really crazy take, it's fine. Like, why would you say that having an open relationship on one end is okay, but, you know, she can't be open? You know, it was like things like that. But then there were some people who I think might have misspoke or maybe aren't so eloquent in the way of which they speak, and we would put them out there, and it just felt like we were kind of just like casting them to the wind, and like they would kind of go through like the Game of Thrones, like shame in the square.
Yeah.
And it didn't always feel good, even though the views always felt great. So we just had to pivot and do something that was more aligned with our morals and ethics.
Yeah, That's fair. Yeah, I feel like, well, actually I'm curious because you guys are, I don't mean to bring race into this, but I'm just curious, like is biracial couple, is that the right way to say that?
Interracial couple.
Was that ever a part of the comments and stuff that you got? Like,
actually, that's a really good point. When we first started dating and when we first started the podcast, we didn't want to bring up that we were an interracial couple because sometimes it's really divisive online and people have a lot to say about it. It always does great views. Like every time we've done a clip about it or did a street interview about it or did a podcast about it, it always did really well.
Yeah.
And there would be a lot of people who would come in and they would like shit on our relationship. So And that was really hard for me to reconcile at first, because when we first started dating, it was already difficult enough for me to date somebody that wasn't Black because I had never dated outside of my race before, like not seriously anyway.
Yeah.
And so I was concerned about how the world would perceive me in this new capacity, how my ethnic group would perceive me in this new capacity, how white people would see me in this new capacity. And that made me really nervous. But when we started putting our relationship online, people would go in all the time. Like they would say some really mean things about Grant. They'd be like, I don't know why you're with this fat beta cuck. Like some crazy stuff, like crazy stuff. And they would say things like, I was a bed wench. People have cursed my womb.
Oh my God.
Yeah. People have threatened to like find me and my family members and like unalive them. Yeah. I used to get a bunch of DMs, a bunch of threats, a bunch of death threats. And it was hard at first, but I love playing with broken men. They're food for me. So anytime they would like DM or comment or anything, anytime they would like DM or comment or anything, I'd be like, let's take this as far as it goes. Cause I'm one of those people. Let's go. Everybody's like, oh, take the high road. Don't bully. No, I bully back. Actually, I'm not a high road girly. So yeah, we've dealt with everything.
That's crazy. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So much to unpack with that. Before we get into this more, I want to like set your intro for the audience, because the people that don't know who you are, obviously
Okay.
I know Grant was telling me like you're popping on the short form right now. It's like your face is becoming more prominent. But for my viewers, I was trying to think about how to give you an intro, and I was like, you're such a diverse person. Like you know, you're like an entrepreneur. You're really good at content. You know, I feel like you're like a good operator, like creative brain, but also like, I feel like you're very curious.
Oh, thanks.
You know,
Yeah.
and you have so many cool qualities about you. But how would you describe your like who you are? Like if you were to describe Asia in a couple sentences, like how would you do that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like that's something I've been wondering myself. Is a lot of my life and what I've done has been very transitional. So I went from, doing like I went from being an anthropologist to then doing documentary work about sex work that was based
What's
on
an
anthropology.
anthropologist?
An anthropologist is somebody that studies human culture.
Got it. Okay.
So there's different types of anthropologists. Like an archaeologist is an anthropologist, which is what's his name? Jones. Somebody in Indiana Jones.
Gotcha.
Is like is an anthropologist. There's biological anthropology, but I was a cultural anthropologist. So I would look at gender and sex, and then I studied a lot of sex work dynamics, and then I kind of moved into like the content space, and then kind of became like a girlfriend content person. So if I was to describe myself, it's something I'm kind of reconciling right now because it's so many different things. But I would say like I'm a director, film director, producer, writer, and content creator. That's like
super cool. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very efficient way of like encompassing it. Where does your curiosity in sex work and that whole world come from? Because I know you do a lot, or at least you've done a lot in that whole world.
I became really, really interested in sex work and sex-based dynamics and sexuality and understanding yourself. And my family growing up was really religious, and there were a lot of things that I was told I could not do. So I think that as a woman growing up in that type of environment where it limits how you discover yourself and how you discover your femininity, I became interested in how people can utilize their femininity for other things. So like OnlyFans, stripping, dominatrixes, and things like that. And people think that when you are a sex worker, that it doesn't give you confidence, that it's something that you do when you're broken. But you could say that about anybody. You could say that about somebody that works at McDonald's. Maybe they're working there because they don't have any confidence in something they do when they're broken, It's a spectrum. And so that's kind of what got me into it. And I had a lot of friends that were sex workers also. And I ended up kind of doing like an anthropological research at a strip club. And it really changed a lot of how I thought about sex work. Because I was always like, oh, girls that dance or do this type of work, they all have daddy issues. They're all broken. They all have problems. But then I realized that a lot of these women are mothers. I met a lot of women who are doctors. I know women who are lawyers now. And so it really changed my perspective. And that's kind of how I got into like that realm of work.
Interesting. So is your curiosity with sex work because you are supportive of the people that are engaging in those activities, like OnlyFans, stripping? Like, is it because you support them, or is it because you're trying to understand why they would go and do that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's not necessarily from a psychological perspective. I think that people have free will and autonomy, and most importantly, agency as it pertains to how they use their bodies in life. So it's never been like, what's going on in your mind that has made you want to do something so extreme? Like being a Boilermaker is probably really dangerous, but nobody talks about that.
What's a Boilermaker?
I don't know. It's a thing it's a thing I saw on TikTok, and people are talking about like you can make like $5,000 a month making boilers. It's like a thing that keeps places heated or something like that. Maybe we should have the producer do the research, but I've seen like the videos on TikTok, and it is like kind of dangerous-ish looking work. But it's always been from a supportive standpoint, because I had questions about how you could put yourself in certain situations, but it was never like, oh, what's wrong with you? Or like, what's different about you that made you do that? And my perspective has always been everybody uses their body for financial gain or power. It just is a spectrum of how we use them. And then beyond that, it's also what is and isn't accepted in society. So
That's a very interesting point. I've never thought about like everyone using their body for status, power, money, but that is very true. Like even if you're an entrepreneur and you have a business, like you're using your energy, time, resources, hands, like your eyes, ears for gain in a financial sense. So I guess someone could argue like, how is that different than someone stripping or posting pictures of their body on OnlyFans? Like they're using it for financial gain, power, status.
Right.
I think, you know, as a Christian, the way that I look at things is, you know, when I wake up every morning, I pray and I'm like, how can I use my mind, my brain, my body, my spirit to honor God, right? That's how I look at things. Obviously not everyone does that, but you know, and I'm reading this book called Garden City right now, and it talks about how work is worship, right? So like we worship God through work, or even like rest is worship because you're honoring your body that God gave you. But the one thing it said was it listed out the things that are not honoring God, and sex work was one of those things because it's like you're exploiting your body, you know, it just has a very negative connotation in that. So I guess my question is like, for, you know, I guess young women that are out there that, or even men that want to honor God, like, do you think that, I guess in your perspective, right? Like, do you think sex work could honor God? And I know you may not, I don't know if you're Christian or not Christian or whatever, but.
I'm not religious.
Okay.
I have a lot of respect for religion.
Yeah.
Although I'm not religious, if we were to have children, you know, Grant and I would definitely want them to attend church because I just feel like it's very important foundationally, communally, and it teaches a lot of really good lessons about just the basics of life. You know, I don't care if they become religious or not, but I do think it's a important, I guess I'll call it a rite of passage. But do I think that sex work is going against God, or do I think that sex work is, what is the exact?
Yeah, I think that was my question. Yeah.
Do I think that sex work is going against God? I think, and maybe this is an incredibly unpopular opinion, but I think that although there is the Christian God in the Bible, I think that God is a spectrum, and people's belief in him varies based on how they live their own personal lives. So I don't feel like I'm a person to say that something is or isn't against God's will. Again, I'm not like that tapped into the Bible, right? But I would say that people tend to believe in God in ways of which it suits them. And there are a lot of people who are gay who believe in God, but homosexuality is a sin. You know what I mean? So I don't think I'm necessarily the right person to ask about whether or not sex work is a sin to me. No, because I don't think that there are a lot of things that are considered to be sins or sins. And as in regards to, you know, you're saying that you're reading a book about like works, right? And like certain acts, and that rest is a part of worship. I think I've had an interesting time reconciling acts versus like faith, right? Because at the end of the day, based on what the Bible says, it doesn't really matter what it is that you do in your life that is an act, as long as your faith lies in Jesus as your like Lord and Savior, as long as you have been saved and you like repent for what your sins are. And I think that that has been something of interest to me. And there was actually maybe like this Bryce Crawford point where he was like, Jeffrey Dahmer was on Jesus's mind when Jesus died on the cross for our sins. So why is the sex worker not on his mind? You know, if the idea is that Jeffrey Dahmer believed so deeply in God or in Jesus that that his faith was that strong that he really accepted in his heart that Jesus is his Lord and Savior, did it matter that he killed people? So I think that's an answer and a question.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's a great response. I don't know what the right answer is. My experience in this space is I just signed Nala Ray, who was one of the biggest OnlyFans stars, porn star. And then she found Jesus, and she got married, and now she's out of that world, and she's trying to evangelize the youth about why it's not a good idea to go down that path, and there's other alternatives to make money and da. So that's been the extent of my level of involvement in this space. What I can say is, sex is such an interesting topic because like God created sex, right? Like that is from him. It's like
Right.
I guess a gift from God. Like I don't know what the right phrase is for that, but you know, to me, it's like, I just think of it as when I have kids, do I want my daughter posting her body on OnlyFans? Do I want my daughter stripping? Do I want my son in the gay clubs, like stripping, Like,
Right.
I don't think the answer is yes. And I don't know how you could be proud as a parent of your kid doing that kind of work.
Yeah. Well, if your son being in the gay club stripping and your daughter being on OnlyFans posting nudies was a part of her testimony of what led her to Jesus, would you then like absolve her of that sin? Like, would it make sense to you? Would you be able to understand it if at the end of the day she was like, oh my God, Daddy, I was on a pole shaking it for $20. But then I had this realization as the money was falling down upon my body that I shouldn't be doing this and that I should go to God and that I should like give my life over to Jesus. Would you then be upset with her for having done sex work if it led to her testimony that led to her faith?
No, of course not. Because look, I was the guy that went to strip clubs. I was the customer. I was, I've done worse things than go to a strip club. Like, so I've been that guy.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I mean? So no, I don't think I would be upset with her. I think I'd be very proud of her for recognizing that probably wasn't the best path. But I think everyone should be forgive for everything. So I would forgive her. But like, it just feels like there's better options.
Right.
Like go work at a library. You know what I'm saying? Like go make smoothies at Sun Life. Like there's other ways to make money. But you know what's interesting too is, do you follow Andrew Tate?
Not consistently. I've like seen the Tate sphere, you know what I mean? I remember when he was big and getting all the red pillars all riled up, but I don't like know what he's doing now. I think he just got out of jail or something, right? From like Romania, trafficking.
Yeah. So all that. But he just did a podcast with Bonnie Blue, who was one of the the girls who the 1,000 bodies a day.
Did that really happen? Did she actually do 1,000? Is there video proof?
I can't confirm nor deny if there's video proof, but to my understanding that it did happen.
Okay.
Then there's Lily Phillips, who was the other girl that I think did it. And in the interview, it's a very interesting watch. And I'm not supporting nor not supporting any of this. I'm just speaking as a viewer from watching it, that he basically was saying that the way that Bonnie is going out and having sex with 1,000 guys, posting about it, being very open and vocal, is actually a better position and move than the rest of the female population who is, doing the same thing and lying about it or not being honest with their partner or cheating or, all this other stuff. So it's like, what's better? The woman who's being upfront about it, doing it in the public eye and gaining, financial gain, power, status, building an empire for herself and her family, or the girl that's cheating on her husband and sleeping with like 5 dudes on the weekend. You know what I'm saying? So that to me was like an interesting perspective. I think in my opinion, both are wrong.
Right.
But I just thought a cool like perspective of like, dang, like, and also it's like, I guess I'm curious about your thoughts. Cause I do want to talk about cheating. Cause I think that's, and lust from the female standpoint. Cause I feel like it's not talked about because it's, guys like, yeah, we all struggle with lust. Like men got to conquer their lust, but it's like, we're not really talking about what the females are experiencing. So whatever degree you're comfortable speaking on this, like, what are your thoughts on what I just said about the Bonnie Blue and Tate conversation? Also, talk to me a bit about like, since you do understand psychology, I think to a degree through your anthropology days, like what are your thoughts on general female population and their dealings with temptation and lust?
Okay, so for the Bonnie Blue situation, and whether or not it's better that she's like out in public talking about having slept with 1,000 dudes versus the woman that might be cheating with her husband with 5 guys on the weekend. I think that men and the manosphere tend to inflate what they think women are capable of in a short amount of time. There's not a lot of women outside cheating on their husband, fucking on 5 dudes on the weekend. Like that would just take a lot of energy. And I think that in order to make a point about understanding the female psychology around sex work, men often have to make a lot of excuses to reconcile why a woman would be able to do that. And then also make more points about what the average woman is probably doing. So I think that they see Bonnie Blue as a representation of a very small, if existent at all, population of women. Women aren't really, I can't speak on every woman. Like there's some women that are cheating on their husbands for sure, but with 5 dudes, like I doubt that that's the case. And so do I think that it's better that she does it out in the open or behind closed doors? I think that's really just totally based on your value system. I think from like a Christian perspective, I think that it would probably be better if she was not out in the open about it. And then from a male perspective, I don't think a lot of men want to know how many partners their woman has had. That goes back to like the body count situation. In conversation. So I think that being out about, oh, I slept with 1,000 dudes and admiring that versus thinking that there's women that are secretly cheating on their husbands on the weekend. I think that that's based on your value system and how you try to reconcile understanding women. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then women dealing with lust. I feel like I've said the word spectrum multiple times in this episode, but I do think that lust is one of those things that's a spectrum, and also how women navigate lust is a spectrum. And I think, again, it depends on how you're measuring that lust and based on what value system. So if it's like a Christian value system, there's this one content creator and she makes these kind of like smutty videos with her boyfriend. I love them. I'm all about it. Every time she makes a new one, I'm watching it. You know, I wouldn't consider that necessarily lust, but maybe perhaps based on a Christian value system, I am lusting, therefore that's a sin. So I think that based on me as a non-religious person, how do women lust? I think that it can be different. I would say that a lot of women do it in quiet. And I don't necessarily think that that's because of shame. I just think that a lot of women don't find it necessary to boast about or speak about or make clear their desires and their wants about what they are or are not getting from their partner or what they desire or don't desire in men. So I think that navigating lust is probably a lot easier for women because it's not as complex, because we don't often associate lust with what we are and aren't receiving from like men. Whereas men tend to get lustful over a woman. She says she doesn't like them, and then they're mad at her. Now she's like dirty and she's ugly and she's all these things. I don't think that women have that. They don't have the same ego attached to like their desires as men do. So we navigate lust, I think, in a lot more conscious way and peaceful. So that's my take.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, bro. It's I do want to get into the body count conversation because that is something I've been thinking about a lot, just because I get my whole Instagram feed right now it's like alpha male stuff of like, yo, as a man, you're judged by your woman on how much property you own, how much power you have, your status, your financial wealth, and da-da-da. And it's like, as a man, you should judge your woman on how pure she is and how many women she slept with in her past. And I'm like,
women or men?
Men should judge women based on those factors.
You said how many women she's slept with.
Sorry, how many men she's, I don't know what they're up to.
No,
they're sleeping with women. But like, bro, like,
yeah.
It's interesting because from a male standpoint, and I can only speak for myself, if I'm going to give my life to a woman, right? And as a Christian, if I'm giving my life to you, I'm giving my life to you. I'm not cheating. I'm not doing the other things. I'm not going astray. So if I'm giving my life to you and you're going to be the woman that carries my child and births my child and is the mother to my child or children, like, do I or should I consider how many men you've given your body to already? Because if you've given your body to a bunch of men for free on the weekend over the last 10 years and your body count is whatever, 10, 20, 30, 40, like, why would I work so hard to give you everything and work so hard to give you what you've already, to get you when you've given that to someone else for no cost at all?
Okay.
And so I guess my question is, do you think that it's important for a woman to be more conscious than a man of her body count, especially because, you know, when a woman gets to 25, 26, 27, they go to like, oh, shoot, I got to get into marriage mode. I got to find my man and commit. But it's like, yo, you just spent 10 years, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, doing your thing out there in the streets. So, like, I guess my question is, like, do you think it's again, important for a woman to be conscious of how many bodies she's getting? And also, do you think it's fair for a man to accept or not accept a woman based on what that number actually is?
I think that's a really great question. It's kind of complex, right? So I would definitely say that in some instances, I would consider body count to matter, because to me, that would indicate something about your personality, like how you're able to regulate yourself, how you're able to abstain from desire, and not even sexual desire, just desire at all on any level. But do I think that a woman should be conscious of her body count? I don't think that women should have to be more conscious of their body count than men. And then also, how would you know if she didn't tell you the truth? So it's kind of like, does her body count matter, or does the knowledge of her body count matter? Does that make sense? And I think with the purity conversation, I personally don't believe in that. And one of the things that you said was, why would I work so hard for a woman if she's given herself to 10, 20, 30 other men? I understand that sentiment, but is that you boiling her down to a body? Because if you can boil her down to a body and be like, oh, her body no longer matters to me because she's given her body to 30 bodies, why is it easy for you to reconcile that she's just a body without reconciling that the 30 bodies she might have caught are also just bodies to her? Like, they're not of importance, right? I think that giving yourself to somebody physically, I do think that it's sacred. I think that sex can be very, very sacred. Do I think that every time you have sex it's sacred? No, but I do believe that the body is a sacred temple. Whatever you choose to do with it is kind of on you, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that women should be more accountable for how many people they sleep with over men. And if a woman has given herself away 20 times or to 20 different men, but she's only giving you her like spirit and her soul and her real love and all of these things that really matter and make a person, does the body count matter more than the love that you're receiving? You know, but I do understand, like, if 30 is a lot for you, then 30 is a lot for you. I get that. I don't think that the body count conversation is wrong. I just think that there are other factors that need to be put in place, because what if at that time in her life she was suicidal and she wasn't happy with herself and she was constantly finding self-worth in her ability to get men to be attracted to her and things like that. Like, I think that the body count conversation is based on a lot of different factors. And also, if a woman wanted to fuck a lot of guys, she could. It's pretty easy for us. Anybody's gonna say yes for the most part. So I think that's kind of like my take on it if I answer that question.
Yeah.
Did I answer that question?
Yeah, you definitely did. It's that's a great point. Like, you know, I see when I asked you that question, I wasn't projecting my opinion. My opinion on it is actually pretty similar to of what you just said, which is like, how, are they showing you love? Are they giving you your spirit? Like, also their character and their consistency and all these other things that are important. Like, I agree with you that, you know, like, just like men, like, we may have gone through an era like they call it like the age, whatever, the whole, I don't want to say the word, but like.
I got you. I'm with you. 304 phase.
Yeah. Like, you know, men go through phases and, you know, we, just as we may have seasons of depression and anxiety and these things, and we may turn to like drugs or sex or whatever, right, to fulfill ourselves. Perhaps women went through that in their past. And so the body count conversation, I think there needs to be, like, if that's important for a man to understand, like, hey, how many bodies did a woman catch? If you're actually considering the potential of a partnership with that person, then you should go deeper in the conversation of, okay, you had sex with 10 people, like, explain it, or let's go through what your mentality was at the time, your emotional state. Like, I think there needs to be further questioning beyond like, hey, oh, your body count's 7, we're done. Like, this ain't going to work for me. Like, you should consider the other factors. What I do think from like a scientific perspective, though, is there's this concept of I think it's called peer bonding, which is your ability to, I think, bond with your partner and stick with your partner exclusively. And I think from a scientific perspective, to my knowledge, that the more bodies that a woman has, or the more sexual partners she's had, the harder it becomes for them to peer bond with one specific partner moving forward, because they've experienced that connection with other men.
Just women in general, or is this like it encompasses all gender. Is this study only focused on whether or not women are or their inability to peer bond, or is it just a general gender?
I don't know if it's female specific or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Probably not. So is pure bond like our relationship is pure, or is pure bond more so revolving around purity?
I think it's called peer bonding, which is your ability to bond with your partner. So like, if a man and his woman, they start to have a sexual relationship, and they're like, hey, this is our partnership for life. We're going to stick together. Mm-hmm. The study was saying that it becomes harder for the woman to commit and be exclusive in that partnership because her chemical, like her body has signed, like that. We'll cut this. Like from a scientific standpoint, she's chemically like rewired to want additional partners or not be able to commit to the one partner because she's experienced X amount of other partners.
I can't speak to their ability or inability to commit, but I would say that having multiple partners does give you a playground of desire in your mind. I think maybe is like the best way for me to phrase that is having all these partners. If one guy was really good at going down on you, I don't know what the censorship on your podcast is, but like if a one guy is like really good at going down on you, then another guy's a really great kisser, then another guy's is really good at like the actual act of sex, then I think that gives you a playground of sexuality in your mind, for you to kind of just like run around to and bounce from all of these different memories of like, oh my God, he was such a great, oh my God, this other one was such a great. But I think that can go for anybody. Let's just hope that whoever she with is really throwing it down so that she forgets about all those other guys. Does that make sense? It's like, I think that, I personally don't believe, in the concept of purity, sexually. And I think that, I understand that having more sex definitely does change your brain chemistry, especially as you increase the type of sex that you have, right? You're releasing new dopamine, you're rewiring synapses to respond to new things differently. That's why when people get into BDSM, they often tick it up every time because they've already gotten the dopamine hit or the rush from being like choked a little bit. Now they want to pass out. So I can understand that having more partners would kind of make you recycle those ideas, but I don't want to make a claim or agree with it making you more or less loyal to your partner.
I guess my follow-up question to that is, in your opinion, when a woman has had multiple sexual partners and she's in this new relationship, do you think that most women are frequently flashing back to their previous partner's encounters, or do you think that it's like more rare? Because I do understand that when women love, like they love deeply, and sex, to my understanding, for most women is more of an emotional connection. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
It depends on how good he was, really. Like if the man that you're committed to now is not throwing it down, of course you're gonna have flashbacks of your ex dick, like or like the past relations that you were participating in with other men. I think that you can compartmentalize how much you love somebody and be loyal to them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're sexually satisfied. And I think that that's a conversation people don't have a lot. And I'm not saying that gives you the green light to go cheat on your partner or go find what you're not getting at home elsewhere. It definitely should be a conversation of, hey, like I like it done this way, or I want you to be more like this. And I think that a lot of people, men and women, when they get pointers on sex, they wonder, like, what are you comparing me to? Are you comparing me to porn? Are you comparing me to your ex? Are you comparing me to, and that's what makes it so difficult for couples to be able to open up about their sexual desires and having their needs met from their partner. I think that if you're with somebody for long enough, you probably forget about it. Like, do I think that couples who have been with their partners for 20 years are still thinking about the guy that they hooked up with 21 years ago? The guy, the husband's, his whole game would have to be majorly weak, but maybe does it pop up? Yeah, probably. But I wouldn't say that it's a consistent fantasy women have. to think back on their exes, but it's also like a case by case basis because it could have been the love of her life. It didn't work out. And now she's with a new guy and like sex is fine with him, but it's not, oh boy. So I think it's just, I think that's just like case by case, but I think it's probably the same for men, right?
Yes, it's so interesting, this whole thing. I think a big contributor probably to why men and women flash back to their partners or lust or have temptation or think about other sexual partners when they're with someone is because of pornography and you know, their exposure mentally to a bunch of different dudes with a bunch of different girls and different skin colors and different body shapes. And it's like, I feel like pornography negatively trains your mind not for monogamy, right? Like it's like you kind of become wired for like you want a bunch of different stuff. So what are your thoughts on pornography? Do you think it's healthy for people? And yeah.
I'm choking. Like, I swallowed my spit in a weird way. I'm fine. What do I think about porn? Wait, what?
Pornography.
Pornography and how it impacts monogamy?
Yeah, and like, do you think pornography is healthy?
I think anything in moderation is healthy. I don't think pornography is fentanyl. You know what I mean? But even fentanyl, don't they like prescribe that to you for certain things? But people are just doing it as coke, and so that's what's killing them.
I don't think so. I think fentanyl
is like an actual.
Fentanyl's like they use it like it's like morphine.
I thought if you like touch fentanyl, you're done. Like, oh, okay.
So maybe take the fentanyl part out, but I think that things in moderation are I wouldn't go so far as to say that things in moderation are bad. There are some people who have grown up in areas or households that weren't open to sex at all, and perhaps they learned how to speak about sexuality from pornography. I wouldn't go so far as to say that pornography has nothing to teach and nothing to show and is good for nothing. And what I think about a lot also is when it comes to like whether or not sex work is bad, right? Or if sex workers are bad, kind of going back to, there are a lot of countries where sex work is legalized because there are some people, men and women, who might not be socially attractive or like the standard of attractiveness, or maybe they're bound to a wheelchair for their whole life and they never know feminine touch outside of what they can pay for. So I think that I'm kind of in the same boat with porn, where I don't necessarily think it's bad. I just think everything needs to be taken in moderation. Like if you're in your room whacking it 15 times a day in like 3-minute intervals or whatever, like that's a problem. You need to take a chill pill. But I don't think that, I haven't done any research on it, so I can't talk from like a scientific perspective.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think that watching porn is negative. If you have the right mentality, if you have an addictive personality, then obviously anything could be triggering for you. But I wouldn't say that it impacts monogamy. I would say that it warps people's perception of how sex should be experienced. And growing up, I didn't get my first kiss till I was 18.
Dang.
Like I was just so scared because I didn't know anything about like sex.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure I probably watched like whatever clips, and I always thought that sex was really performative. So it's like the more noise you're making, the better time you're having. But that's also like not necessarily true. So I think it does warp people's education on it.
Yes.
And overexposure to it does mess with your brain in a lot of ways as it pertains to like what you're expecting from your partner. But would I say that it's like all bad? I don't know. Probably not. I would say no. I wouldn't say it's like just all bad. Can't blanket statement that for me.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's good. I think I think it's bad if you're in a relationship and you're like your goal is monogamy or marriage. Like I just don't think it's, you know, it's like training for a marathon and drinking like a ton of beer or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you're not using the right tools to achieve your end goal. So
right.
I would say it's probably best just not to do it in my perspective. Do I fall short? All the time. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm not perfect. But yeah, it's definitely like, I think for me, every time I've engaged in that, it's only increased my lust when I'm out in public or, you know what I mean? And that's not fair to my partner or my family, or not family, but to my future family or my partner. So I think it's best just to try and avoid it.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, fair. I can understand that. What if you're watching it with your partner?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting question. I still think it's probably not the best thing. Mm-hmm. You know, like read a 50 Shades of Grey or something. Like do something else that's not involving other people, because it's just not contributing positively to your relationship. Like, you know, yeah, that's my thought. Okay, so enough about pornography. I guess my last question for you from like a relationship standpoint is, I think there's a lot of people that watch this podcast that maybe are in a new relationship or a new marriage, or they're dating somebody. And, a lot of my audience is entrepreneurs. So people that, are very busy and they have a lot going on. And so what do you think is like balance in a relationship? And like from a dating standpoint, how much time is enough in a, like, do you need to be hanging out every day? Like, do you think a couple dates a week is fair? Like, how do you view balance in a relationship?
I think that it depends on your circumstances, right? If you and your partner are both entrepreneurs and you have a full-time business, but you guys live together, then it's probably easier for you guys to prioritize yourselves and each other at home. And because you're an entrepreneur, you can always make your own schedule and adapt things. I mean, I think at your level, it's a lot different because you are in communication with so many people, so you have to balance and juggle so many different schedules, not just your own. But I do think that intentional time 100% needs to be carved out. But I would also say that individuality, in my opinion, is, besides communication, everybody always says that, but individuality is my number one thing that I think makes a relationship work, because if you don't know who you are outside of your partner, how could you ever really enjoy your time with them? Because what are they bringing to your life besides like, just a mirror reflected back at you of what you're giving? So I think it's important for you to have individuality, having your own group of friends, having your own things that you like to do. Like Grant and I like to go skeet and trap shooting, and I like to do archery, and I like to go out in the woods and throw axes. That's not his thing.
Yeah.
And I got to respect that. That's not his thing.
It looks like it would be his thing, though.
It does.
Especially right now.
It definitely doesn't look like my thing.
Right, let's go.
But I think that making sure that you're an individual, and you don't even have to be like a whole actualized person. I think that that's a myth. Like fully love yourself before you get into a relationship. No. When Grant and I first started dating, I don't even think I really liked myself. And there were periods of time in our relationship where I hated myself. So I wouldn't say that it's that, but definitely making sure that you carve out intentional time with your partner and to be present with them and to love them in a love language and communicate with them in a love language or in a language that they can understand. And that's something that we've kind of had, Grant and I, issues with, is I can't get over a fight unless we've fought about it. We had to take a break. We're coming back to it and resolving it. Oftentimes he doesn't want to come back to it. He's just like, oh, we talked about it. It's done. I'm like, no, I need to get to the other side of this. So I think there's a lot of different ways that you have to balance understanding your partner. And giving them what they need, not how you need it, but how they receive it, is probably my top three things. Individuality, communicating, delivering and receiving communication and love the way of which your partner accepts it. Yeah. And then communication, I guess, was like muddled those two last things. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's those are all really important points. I think like what it comes down to, in my opinion, is we're all like ongoing projects, right? And we're always going to be constantly like fixing ourselves and adjusting things and removing screws and da-da-da-da-da. And I think it's like for people that are maybe dating someone that they're not sure about, or, they're with someone that they think has potential, I think you just got to ask yourself if that's a project that you want to be working on with that person.
Whoa, that's forever. Great. Yeah.
Like, and if you're down to work on that project forever, then that could be your person. I think it's also important to think about like,
that's real.
Is my life better with this person? Like, does this person add to my already amazing life? And if the answer is no, then you're probably like not with the right partner.
Yeah. Wow, that's a really interesting perspective, is that, we are all projects, and it's really about buckling down and figuring out who you want to work on yourself with and who you want to experience while they work on themselves as well. That's a bar.
Thank you.
tea.
We try, you know what I'm saying? We try. Dude, Asia, this has been so fun, man.
This was fun.
I really appreciate you coming
Yeah,
on
of
and doing
course.
this. For people that don't follow you, where can they find you on the internet?
We are Relationship Podcast Couple. It's hanging out, the number 4 ever, on all the platforms. And then my personal is Asia Corinne. And then, of course, I got to plug my man. He's also on Hanging Out Forever.
Let's
But then
go.
also Grant Blackwell, but it's got 2 C's.
Double C.
Double C, no K.
You crippin', bro?
No, he's not. No, he is not.
I love you guys. Thank you so much again.
Yeah,
I
of
appreciate it.
course.
Make sure you guys go follow Asia, follow Hanging Out Forever, follow Grant, leave a review, subscribe, and stay tuned for another episode coming soon. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.